Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is your girl, Terrell Ravenel, Life and Marriage Disruptor. We are on day 17, you guys. Day 17, talking about enough is enough. As you're coming on, please hashtag enough is enough for me. Hashtag enough is enough. This is a beautiful Saturday morning. I'm super excited to be on with you all this morning. Super excited to be have this conversation with you all this morning. And let me know if you can hear me okay. I do have my headset on here. I'm not sure if my voice is projecting through the headset or if my voice is projecting just directly to the device here. Nonetheless, just let me know that you can hear me okay, that I'm clear, that I am visible. I had some technical teas on yesterday when we were trying to do the Friday Night Live in my group. So I just want to make sure that we're good here. We're talking about enough is enough. So the last 17 days I've spent with you all. Good morning, Tanja. Let me know if you can hear me, sweetheart. The last 17 days I spent with you all, and we've been talking about enough is enough, and we've been directly talking to those individuals that are in emotionally destructive or emotionally abusive marriages. And giving them a lifeline, more or less, and showing them, really helping them to identify where they are. Good morning, Denise. Good morning, Deborah. Helping them to identify where they are, helping them to identify behavioral patterns in their marriage and certain things that are happening in the marriage, so that they can find safety where they need to find safety. And this morning, before we talk about the core, because in the last 4 days, we're going to talk about the core. The last 4 days, we're going to talk about the core and strengthening your core. And before we talk about strengthening your core, I really want to talk about, if you're in a place where you're being dishonored. And typically, if you are, good morning, Giovanna, if you are in an emotionally destructive or abusive marriage, you may feel like you are being dishonored. You may feel like you're not being treated the way that you deserve to be treated, and you should be treated as someone's wife, as someone's friend, as someone's life partner. And what I want to just share with you this morning and really just encourage you is that if you are being dishonored, just because he's dishonoring you, don't dishonor yourself. Don't make yourself feel like the victim. Don't make yourself be filled with guilt or shame or any of those negative attributes because you decided to stay in this marriage, or because you are in this marriage, or because he's acting a blame fool, to say more or less. I'm again reminded of Nabal, whose name means fool in the Bible. So just because he's acting like a fool, you have to maintain your posture. Good morning, Contrita. Good morning, Nakia. Good morning, all my replay viewers. And as you're coming in, I want you, if you can, to hashtag enough is enough. Hashtag enough is enough. So anytime you're in a predicament, and especially in a marriage relationship, and you feel like you're not getting the respect that you deserve. Yesterday, we talked about the 4 principles. Anybody remember the 4 principles on yesterday? I shared with you all 4 principles of what should be happening, or what should be showing up in your marriage. And last week, or a couple weeks, week and a half ago, I shared with you the 3 key ingredients that your marriage needs in order to be successful. Does anybody remember those? The 4 rules and the 3 key principles. Good morning, Landa. 3 key principles and the rules. I know you may not remember the key ingredients, but I'll share those with you. So the 3 key ingredients that your marriage needs in order to survive and also thrive is mutuality, freedom, mutuality, reciprocity, and freedom. Mutuality, reciprocity, and freedom. So in any time that your marriage is not experiencing those 3 things, and the opposite is true, mistreatment is inevitable, right? Mistreatment is going to show up. That's what's going to be the staple in that household, because you're not free to be who you are. the reciprocity when it comes to the love, when it comes to the respect, when it comes to how you're treating one another, it's not there. And the mutuality when it comes to ownership, when it comes to responsibility, those things are not there. So when those things are not there, the mistreatment is there, right? You're feeling as if you are the victim. You're feeling as if you're not being loved the way that you desire or deserve to be loved. You're feeling hopeless and helpless and all of that stuff. So even in that state, you want to ensure that you're not allowing that to damper who you are. You're not allowing that to dim your light. You know, we are to treat others as we want to be treated, not necessarily how they're treating us. And many of you may be in places in relationships right now where you're not being treated the best. And that does not mean that you turn on your mistreatment light and you begin to mistreat that other person. And in this case, we're talking about your spouse here. So dishonor. So if you're feeling like you're being dishonored, you do the opposite and you still honor. You may be saying, Cheryl, well, you know, my husband, because I'm talking to wives right now, he may not deserve my honor. He may not deserve my respect. He doesn't deserve my love because of how he treats me, because of how he talks to me, because of how he talks to the children or deal with the children or whatever the case may be. However, what I'm going to share with you is to still honor the position that he holds. Even if you don't honor or respect or like the person, you still can respect and honor the position that they hold. I think of a police officer or a judge, right? You know, if you get stopped by the police, you don't like that police in that moment. You outright feel mad, upset, angry, you know, all types of things are going through your head. If you're before a judge because you got into trouble for whatever the reason, you're not in a good space normally at that current time. However, because that person holds a specific position, you still respect the position, even if you don't respect or like the person. And that's what I want to tell you on this morning. Even if you are in a place right now where you and your husband are at odds, the mistreatment has been there. You've been going through the motions for the last how many ever years you've been married, or this may be something recent in your marriage. It may have been months, and things just seem to be off. And you're finding yourself in a place with a lot of discouragement, and you're finding yourself feeling bitter and feeling angry a lot of the time, because it could be anger at yourself for allowing yourself to get in that predicament, and it can be anger at him for you allowing him to treat you that way, and for him treating you that way, because that was never in the plans of the marriage. So what I want to encourage you to do is to continue to self-reflect. Reflect of where you are, where you desire to go. Reflect on your relationship with God. Reflect on what you need to do so that this does not become who you are. Good morning, Jasmine. Good morning, LaSwan. Reflect on who you need to become as the wife, as the woman. And, you know, honoring him is not enabling him. You honoring him is giving him the honor that is due to him. Because I think about, again, Nabal and Abigail, 1 Samuel 25. Although she didn't agree with a lot of things that he did, she didn't respect the person that he was, because he was a fool. That's what the Bible calls him. She respected the position, and she honored the position because that was her husband nonetheless. You know, and she was blessed as a result of her just honoring his position that he held, as her husband and as the leader of their home. So I saw no one listed the 4 rules. So the 4 rules I talked about on yesterday is to love one another, to respect one another, to honor one another, and to support and to help one another. If any of those are missing in your marriage, if any of those rules are not applying in your marriage, you know, you will see, what's inevitable is destructive behavior, mistreatment. That's what's apparent in that marriage. So, you know, I've been encouraging you all to, if you can, have that conversation with your spouses. You know, talk to them and share with them how you're feeling, you know, where the marriage is at, because they may not have a clue. You know, you have some people that are just who they are, and they've been taught to do things a certain way, or taught to show up in a certain way, and they really don't understand what's happening They know that you guys have been at odds, or arguments have been, more than normal, but they don't understand the significance of how the mistreatment or whatever treatment have been happening in the marriage, how it's affecting the overall unity and affecting the marriage covenant as a whole. And a conversation needs to be had at that point, and you should be able to be very transparent about what is happening and what needs to happen going forward. Okay, what I want to say to you, and the reason for the honor as well, the reason for you honoring as well, is so that you don't build up resentment and bitterness. So that you don't build up resentment and bitterness, because it is easy to do that. It's easy for you to feel as if you've been mistreated for so very long. You've taken it for so very long. You've allowed him to walk over you. You've allowed him to disrespect you. You've allowed him to just have his way, and you haven't said much because you wanted to keep the peace. You wanted to not be that person, right? You didn't want to complain. You didn't want to nag, or whatever you may have thought it was. Thank you, Tiffany. Good morning. Good morning, Kayla. So it's important that you do not build up resentment and bitterness. And how can you not do that, right? How can you not do that when you feel like you're being taken advantage of? Well, number one, your relationship with God has to strengthen. And I'm going to share with you over the next 4 days about strengthening your core. Your relationship with God has to strengthen. So if you haven't been getting up every day and praying and spending time with God. And listen, your praying and spending time with God is not God change him, God transform him. You're praying for him for sure, that God will heal him and deliver him and save him. But it's not necessarily God save the marriage, because what happens is you have to heal before the marriage can heal. If God were to allow, your marriage to last, let's say that right now, in the state that it's in, with nobody changing, how would that be beneficial? Would that be beneficial if he said, okay, you and your husband, let's be together. Let's be together. We're going to make it work, but nothing is changing. How would that be beneficial to you? How would that be beneficial to the marriage? So your relationship with God has to be your number one priority. So having that conversation with him, many of you need to pray about what that conversation needs to look like, because you don't want to go in filled with your feelings and your emotions and, thinking about all the things that he's done to you and how he makes you feel, and how he has made you feel over the last years. So your prayer time is God dealing with you. Your prayer time is you asking God for wisdom and instruction of how you are to proceed in having that conversation with your husband. And even with your tone, even with your personality, your attitude, all of that stuff has to be taken in consideration. So in doing so, God is going to show himself mightily through your life. And I asked a question a while back, a few days ago, I can't remember when it was. I said, if you've done all that you know how to do and you've given everything to this marriage and it still doesn't work out, would God be enough for you? So you have to come, if it was a number 3, you have to come to the realization that God is enough. God is enough for me, no matter what. My focus right now is not on the outcome of my marriage working out, but my focus right now is on the outcome of me being healed, of me staying in a posture of a wife. And if you guys don't know what that means, you have to go back and look at the Posture of a Wife series we did on last month with Jill Bullock in the Wives Who Win Training Center. My focus right now is me staying in the position of posture of being a wife, of me continuing to work on my self-growth, my development, my healing, my mindset. And I'm disconnecting myself from the outcome of my marriage working out. I'm disconnecting myself from the outcome of me trying to change him. Because I was talking with the wife one day, good morning, and she was telling me that she was trying to change her husband, and she know that he has so much potential, and that she knows that the place he's operating in right now is not who he is, and she desperately wanted to change him. And what I share with her, I say, you're not his parent, and you're not his mother, and you're not his therapist. As much as you want to change him and see him manifest into this husband and this father that you know he can be, he has to do that. He has to be willing. He has to see that there's a problem. He has to admit to that problem. He has to stop blaming and accusing everybody else for how he's showing up, and he has to take ownership. He has to take ownership. And if he refuses to take ownership, the marriage will go on a downward spiral. That it's just going to happen. It's going to happen. And there's nothing you can do about that. So you remaining in that posture, is you saying, you know what, self, I'm choosing to save me. I'm choosing to keep my mind. I'm choosing to keep my peace. I was talking with another wife on yesterday. We talked about her keeping her peace and not allowing what he had going on to interject into her mess up her vibe. You know, his energy, his nasty energy, reservation about himself to mess up her vibe. And I know it's hard because we love our husbands and their opinion matter, how they feel, how they think, all of that matters to us because we are partners. We're in a partnership. We're in a covenant. That's an agreement with one another. So if he feels awful or in a place, you know, it automatically transfers onto us. But in this next season of our life, of our marriage, in this new decade, we have to strengthen our core. And again, I'll be talking about that for the last 4 days of this challenge. We have to strengthen our core. So whatever is going on around us or whatever is going on in our marriage, it does not and it will not negatively impact us. So again, even if he is dishonoring you, don't you dishonor yourself. You keep hold to who you are. You keep hold to what you believe and who you believe in and who God is creating you to become, who he's called you to become for such a time as this, because it's so much more than where you are right now. And I know you may not be able to see it. It may not have actualized or been realized for you, but I guarantee you, if you just stay the course, that God is going to manifest himself in your life. He's going to manifest himself even in your marriage, but you are going to have to stay the course and honor who God has called you to be, even in that place. I think about Hosea and Gomer. You know, if you haven't read that story, God talks about in the book of Hosea how he instructed Hosea to go marry a prostitute. And as much as this woman dishonored him, disrespected him, and just outright abused him, it was abuse. You know, she was out there having sex with other men. She even had children with other men. And God instructed him to go get his wife, and pretty much paraphrasing, to go get his wife and to clean her up and to love her despite all of that. Now, I don't want any of you to have to go through that. However, I believe that God gave us those stories like Nabal and Abigail and Hosea and Gomer for him to show his love can be demonstrated even in the worst conditions. That was the worst conditions that Hosea was in. And I believe that God wanted to demonstrate his love and say, even when your spouse is not doing what I have mandated them to do through my word, you have to remain in position. And that's what Hosea did. Hosea continued to preach. He continued to do what the Lord told him to do. Yes, he had his moments, just like Abigail had her moments. However, they still did what thus saith the Lord. And at the end, they both received the blessings of God. So read that story, you guys, in Hosea, and then also in the book of 1 Samuel. So listen, you guys, this has been my time. I pray that it has blessed you. I can't believe that we're on day 17 already. Day 18, tomorrow, we will start the conversation talking about strengthening your core. And we're going to start with the C in the word core. We need it. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So I pray you all have a blessed and amazing Saturday. I pray that God continues to smile upon you, that you take these teachings that we have been teaching over the last 17 days. I started with day 0, so technically it's already been 18 days. But for these cases, I'll say 17 days, and that you take something away from it. And you can look at your own life and look at your own marriage, not anybody else's, but look at where you are and where you want to be in 2020 and begin to make those changes starting today. Oh, and I'll be remiss if I do not share. So starting January 1st, we're going to be doing our Speak Life Challenge. And if you've been in a place where you've been emotionally abused, and it has taken a toll over your life, if you've been in a place where you just haven't seen the manifestation of God show up in your life because of what you have been speaking, then you need to get a copy of this book. It's Speak Life, 31 Powerful Affirmations That Will Change Your Life. So we're starting this challenge on January 1st. Everyone that gets the book will also get a journal, a Speak Life journal. It'll be an e-journal, e-workbook journal. So you'll have to print it out if you desire to do that. And they'll get that along with that. And we're also going to be doing live videos in my group, Wives Who Win Training Center, for 31 days starting January 1st. I'm going to kick it off January 1st. And the first day, I will be talking about having an attitude of gratitude. And this affirmation in particular was inspired by a sermon my husband preached some years ago. And I know it's going to bless your socks off. I was just reading it last night, and it's been blessing me over and over again. And at the end of every devotion, there's a Speak Life exercise that you do. It's full of scripture. So this devotion is full of the word of God. It's very simple. It's very short and very sweet. Each devotion is just a couple pages. However, it's very powerful. So if you want to get your copy, let me know. You can comment below and we can make that happen. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate you. And you all have a blessed day. Bye-bye.